I just found out that my fifth wheel is a fire trap. Because of a faulty repair, this entire place could have gone up in flames with me in it. Happy Sunday, everybody. It's Robin with Creativity RV. I hope you're all doing well out there. I am doing just fine. I'm okay. I have diagnosed the problem here inside of my fifth wheel, and I'm fixing it. When we're in RVs, we're going down the road with a lot of wires and chemicals and propane, and we have to make sure that all of that stuff is safe. And in my case, it really wasn't. During his repairs, he created 5 issues, any of which could have led to a fire. I'm going to show you each one and how we fixed it. So if you have a repair like this done, or you repair something like this yourself, you're not in the same danger that I've been in for the last month. I lived in this fifth wheel full time when I was part of a couple. And during COVID, we went out to the desert and circled our wagons with our friends and completely refurbished the inside of this rig. And I love it. But when I went solo again, it was just too big for me. And so I switched and got a little baby Bambi Airstream I named Peanut and put this fifth wheel into storage because I thought I might want to use it later. Well, if you watched last week, you know that I pulled the fifth wheel out of storage and put it in an RV park so that I could have the roof resealed and fix a furnace before I hit the road again. But while I was here, my little baby Peanut was destroyed by hail. Now, at that time, I felt really lucky that I had a fifth wheel to live in, but then I started to have all kinds of weird problems. Everything in here seemed to break at the same time, even though it all seemed to work right before I had this repair done. Well, I hired somebody to do the repairs that was certified and reputable and was also my neighbor. And one time he had done another repair for me that went just fine. So I trusted that he knew what he was doing and he would do it safely. I put the fifth wheel in storage, and when I brought it back out, I knew the furnace had to be repaired. But then the refrigerator immediately was not working. It would cool a little bit on electric, but it wouldn't work at all on propane, and that made me really nervous. My air conditioner in the bedroom went out, and the dryer went out, and this was all at the same time. So my first thought was, oh no, when it was in storage, mice got the wires. So I scoured the area for a new RV repair guy. I believe in mobile RV repair. I have had far better experience with that than I have at the dealerships. And these guys get paid to diagnose the problem and fix it, where the dealerships just get paid to swap out the parts. I recommend them. This was a one-off experience I had with the guy that did this, and so I was hoping that I could find somebody else that could help me with these problems. And luckily I did. It is the busy season, so it took a few days for the new repair people to get out here. In the meantime, I decided to text the original repair guy just to hedge my bets and see what he said. The last thing I said to him was, it's working a little bit on electric, but it's not working on LP. And again, at this point, I thought maybe mice had gotten into the wires, or maybe when it was delivered, a ground wire got disconnected or something. And he immediately came back to me saying, no need to imply it's the repair guy's fault. And I was completely taken aback by that. The one good thing this repair guy did was he turned me on to this gizmo, which I just pulled off of my refrigerator. It has a magnet on it. And you can see here that there are 2 readings, 9 degrees and 31. And this has been so important to me during this process. I will not be without this. The first thing he did is that when he pushed the refrigerator back into its slot, instead of going the extra step of having somebody stand outside on a ladder and hold this separating wall, he decided to push it in, which pushed all the insulation into the coils and into the air ducts that are required for ventilation, which stopped the refrigerator from working properly and caused a fire hazard. My new repair team saw this immediately as soon as they got up and removed that vent, and they fixed the insulation right away. The temperature inside of my refrigerator started going down. The next thing he did was he did not reinstall something called a baffle. Now, When my new repair team got here, we opened up the door and I pointed out to them that there was this big, long, weird wire, like a bent wire, that looked like an old hanger that you would bend to put inside of a car to get your keys out. And they immediately said, wow, that looks like the wire that the baffle should be hanging off of. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, on the right side, you'll see a flue. The LP flame is in the bottom there, and then it goes up through the baffle, which looks like a little mobile, and it disperses the LP correctly so that it will cool the refrigerator properly. We couldn't find the baffle. They got up there on a ladder with a camera and put it down into the flue, and the baffle was just missing. So we ordered another one because that is required for safety and also to have your fridge work properly on LP. When my team came back out to do the repairs, they took off the entire cover for the exterior bin, and that's when they found the original baffle. It had been jammed into the left side corner where you wouldn't normally be able to see it. Let's say it fell into that corner and he left the wire there. This would have been something that would have been really obvious to him when he finished my repair and shut up that door. But instead of making it right, which would have just taken like 10 minutes, he decided to just say it was good and move on. My new team reinstalled that baffle. So now my refrigerator works on propane again. The next two issues were caused when he took out the refrigerator and had to disconnect some wires. First of all, he had to disconnect a wire that goes from that LP flue down into a heat sensor. That heat sensor wire is held in place correctly by a clamp, and that clamp was missing. It was not sitting in the bin somewhere. It's not like it fell off during the delivery. We surmised that probably he just ripped it out really quickly because he was always in a rush. It looked like it actually went up and melted that wire, which was completely unsafe. You can see here in the new unit that these wires are a copper color, and the wire that was in there was like stripped with this black material, and when we bent it, you could see the inside wires. So that was a big fire hazard. It also damaged the heat sensor, so we had to replace that whole unit. So my team did that and ran a new wire into the flue. The next thing he did was pull a group of wires off of the back wall when he pulled the refrigerator out to do the installation. These wires were held together by a zip tie and then glued to the back wall of the refrigerator compartment for safety. You could see the glue was still there, but the wires were now jammed into a crevice right up against the extremely hot cooling tube that runs across the bottom of the refrigerator. This was another fire hazard. And this fire hazard would have been an easy fix. All he had to do was take 5 minutes to re-adhere that group of wires to the wall like my new team did. And here's the big one. While he was doing the refrigerator repairs, I paid this guy to correct a recall on this Norco fridge. In the back of the refrigerators, there is a propane line, and then behind that, there is the cooling tube. Like I said, that tube gets extremely hot. Well, the recall required that the propane line be wrapped with special material and be attached somewhere far, far away from that cooling tube because the cooling tube was melting the propane wire and causing fires and explosions. That is a big deal. This jackwagon, you can't make this stuff up, instead chose to wrap the LP line, but then attach it directly against that cooling tube. He attached it to the little plastic receptacle where water drips down. Luckily for me, his mount actually snapped and the LP line ended up about a ½ an inch away from that tube. I don't know what would have happened if that wasn't the case. My new team double wrapped it in the thermal material and then mounted it far, far away from that extremely hot cooling tube. Now, I'm sure you're wondering what's happening with the other repairs. I thought mice had gotten into the wires or there was a ground problem, but we discovered that it was just a motor that broke and a heat sensor in the dryer, but they broke immediately. So it's possible that those things were damaged when he did that janky delivery, but I don't know. The one thing I do know for sure, and that I can prove, is that he caused directly these issues in my refrigerator, which created a fire hazard. Now, let me tell you what I'm doing with the repair guide. What I've decided to do is write a simple fact-based email to that original repair guide that is backed up by the evidence in photos and give him a chance to make it right. Now, based on my previous experience with this dude, I don't think he's gonna do that, but I want to give him the chance. By the time this video comes out, I should have received a response, and here it is. I got a response from the original repair guy that blew me away. I was like, aliens abducted him and replaced him with somebody else. I was like, where's the original dude and who are you? I was expecting this guy, based on lots of prior experience, to disagree, have an attitude, fight with me, and not make it right. And I could not be more wrong. He wrote me back, and not only did he reimburse me for the new repairs, which is all I was asking for, he also reimbursed me for his time when he did his repairs. And most importantly to me, he apologized. I was really surprised by that. He was professional and he made it right. But I'm sure that my documentation helped that. I decided not to call him or text him where it would be a back and forth and egos could get involved. Instead, I laid out each of the 5 issues one by one, explained them, and attached visual documentation. And if you guys don't take anything from this video, besides how to look at your wires and your propane line and make sure you're not going to blow up, take this away. Documentation is everything. I've done that with every rig I've had and with every repair, and this is before I was a YouTuber. Now, being a YouTuber helps because I had video footage of everything. But if you run into a situation like this and you can make the case with documentation that it wasn't you, that something didn't just break, that something was done wrong, it really goes a long way. I will be seeing you guys Tuesday with an all new Prime Day special where I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to find deals on RV and travel gear so you don't have to. So I'll see you then, and then again with an all new video next Sunday. Until then, everybody out there, have happy travels and be free.